It's not even physically possible for a 9-year-old to do that.
7 times in the same interview, an absolute answer is given, and 7 times the case file tells a more complicated story. Today, we cross-reference the entire interview, moment by moment. I'm Marcus Wren, creator of the TEL Index, a 50-signal system for analyzing statements and behavior in criminal cases. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was found dead in her family's Boulder, Colorado home on December 26, 1996. The family was cleared by DNA evidence in 2008, and the case remains unsolved. Subscribe if you want more analysis. The last time he saw his sister alive was in the car on the way back from the Whites, implying she slept the whole ride and was carried straight to bed. This is code A4, checking the consistency of a specific detail across multiple tellings over time. Cross-referenced against the case file, this isn't the only version of this moment he's told. Burke described a different sequence. JonBenét had actually woken up in the car, helped carry gifts into a friend's house, and when they got home, walked on her own up the spiral staircase to bed, walking just ahead of her mother. Walked up the stairs, still awake, is a very different image from asleep in the car, carried to bed, a version both Burke and his parents have repeated publicly for years. These are 2 different accounts of the same small but meaningful detail, whether JonBenét was still awake or already asleep when they got home. He states flatly, after going to bed, he heard nothing out of the ordinary all night, and looking back, doesn't recall waking up at any point. This is code A4 again, this time checking directly against his own earlier statement. Cross-referenced against the case file, this slept through, heard nothing claim runs directly against Burke's own 1998 statement to police. According to that interview, Burke admitted sneaking downstairs after everyone had gone to bed to play with a new Christmas toy, and recalled hearing the house creaking during the night. His own fingerprints on a glass of iced tea in the kitchen, sitting right next to the pineapple bowl, confirm he was downstairs that evening, not in bed and staying there, as the story is told 20 years later. In other words, the heard nothing, knew nothing version only holds up if you set aside his own statement from closest to the time of the crime. His mother burst into the room in a panic looking for JonBenét, and he just lay there out of a wish to avoid conflict and fear until a police officer came in with a flashlight. This is code C5, checking whether someone is unusually vague on the central sequence of an event while being oddly precise about trivial details from the same event. Cross-referenced against the case file, that vagueness is notably selective. In the 1998 record, Burke described this same sequence in much more detail than he remembers in 2016. His mother turned the light on in her panic, and his father then turned it off. In a separate account, he described his father coming in to check if he was awake while he was playing with a Micro Machines toy car set and telling him JonBenét was missing, a detail that doesn't match the just lying there in the dark image told later. In that same original 1996 interview, just days after the murder, when asked about his sister, Burke didn't ask about her condition at all, but instead commented on being excited for an upcoming trip to Charlevoix. And according to the 1998 record, after 3 straight days of being questioned about his sister's death, is exactly the kind of selective memory pattern this code is built to flag.
John says, call 911, and of course Patsy goes and grabs the phone and calls 911.
In his book, JonBenét, Inside the Ramsey Murder Investigation, Thomas claimed that by enhancing the tape, you could hear John and Patsy talking to their son Burke. He claims that's important because the Ramseys reportedly told police their son was asleep at the time of the call. If true, Thomas claims it suggests the family was altering their story.
He denies being in the room when his mother called 911, and when asked if he can say with absolute certainty the voice at the end of the tape isn't his, he answers flatly, absolutely not. This is code C2, cross-referencing a claim about timing and presence against objective data from a recording device. Cross-referenced against the case file, this is one of the most disputed details in the entire case, and both sides have real grounding. According to a disclosure from former Detective Steve Thomas's own book, the enhanced version of the tape reveals a conversation in the muffled portion, Burke asking why they're calling 911, and Patsy explaining they need police to come. With Patsy's tone shifting abruptly the moment she realizes the dispatcher has picked up, as if signaling everyone in the room to go quiet. Former police chief Mark Beckner has also publicly confirmed there's a voice at the end of the tape. The Ramsey family has repeatedly maintained Burke never woke up at any point that night. But according to Thomas's own account, investigators knew that wasn't true. Burke's absolute certainty, therefore, stands in direct opposition to the recorded evidence multiple named investigators believe captured his voice. It's flatly, twice in a row, "I didn't put the bowl there." Then, asked whether he ate pineapple with his sister that day, shifts to a vague, "Don't remember specifically, but very well could have." This is code C4, directly cross-referencing a verbal account against specific physical evidence documented at the scene. Cross-referenced against the case file, the physical evidence doesn't support the force of that initial denial. Burke's own fingerprints were found on a glass of iced tea sitting right next to the pineapple bowl in the kitchen, confirming his presence there that evening, just as Patsy's fingerprints on the bowl itself confirm she's the one who gave JonBenét the pineapple. More significantly, in the 1998 police interview, when shifting from a flat denial, "I didn't put it there," to vague evasion, "very well could have," within a few questions, about a detail. After Burke flatly denies harming or killing his sister, the show raises a defense point. There's been a few people that said that's not even physically possible for a 9-year-old to do that, regarding both the force of the head blow and the act of strangulation on a roughly 60-pound victim. This is code A4, checking the reasonableness of an absolute claim against the actual public forensic record. Cross-referenced against the case file, this not physically possible claim was directly tested by a professional investigative team, and the result doesn't support it. In CBS's own special, The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, aired the same year, a team including former FBI agent and criminal profiler Jim Clemente and veteran forensic pathologist Werner Spitz, who had previously worked on the JFK assassination investigation, built a skull model matched to the size of a 6-year-old girl covered in pigskin to simulate a scalp, then had a boy around 9 years old strike it as hard as he could with a Maglite flashlight identical to the one found on the Ramsey kitchen counter. The resulting fracture pattern closely matched JonBenét's actual skull injury. Spitz concluded a child could generate enough force with a two-handed swing to cause that injury. Not physically possible isn't the forensic community's consensus. It's one side of a dispute, while a separate named investigative team, using an actual physical experiment, publicly reached the opposite conclusion. Says the unidentified male DNA completely scientifically excludes anyone from the Ramsey family, asking what more evidence anyone could need. This is code A4 again, checking that level of absolute certainty against the actual technical nature of the DNA being discussed. Cross-referenced against the case file, this certainty overstates what this specific evidence can prove. The DNA in question is touch DNA, a minuscule trace on the underwear waistband and under the fingernails, not a full biological sample. Multiple forensic experts have publicly questioned whether this could be transferred DNA from the garment's manufacturing process. In 2016, the same year this interview aired, former DA Stan Garnett publicly stated that the 2008 exoneration letter built on this same DNA had no legal binding value. Notably, Boulder Police's own 2008 apology statement, often cited as clearing the family, actually included an apology for having considered Burke himself a suspect, a detail rarely mentioned when the case is summarized. Calling this an absolute scientific exclusion skips over a real, ongoing dispute within the forensic community about what this specific type of DNA can actually establish. 7 moments, and almost everyone has a different version, more detailed, closer to the time of the crime, waiting to be cross-referenced. Do you think this is how a 9-year-old's memory naturally fades over 20 years? Or something else? Leave a comment below. Subscribe for more analysis in this case series.